I've talked endlessly on this channel about how easy the bosses are in a normal playthrough of Super Paper Mario, so instead of making them harder, why don't we make ourselves harder? Why don't we restrict ourselves more to see what kind of difficulty we can get out of the fights? I'm gonna see if I can beat every single boss without walking at all, just standing in place, jumping, and ducking. At first, this sounds really restrictive and boring, but trust me when I tell you that this is a fantastic way to make this game's bosses harder and more interesting. Between all the characters and the pixels, there are a lot of options at our disposal, and to avoid being repetitive, I'm going to try to use different strategies whenever I can. An obvious solution to this fight would be to just spam items. That was actually mandatory in my last challenge run of this game, but item spam is a really boring solution, so I'm going to ban all damaging items from this challenge completely. Healing items are whatever in my opinion, because all they do is reduce how tedious some of these fights are going to be, but damaging items are a crutch that we just don't need. So, in order to beat Ochunks under these conditions, all we can do is jump on his big dumb head. Even without moving, this is easier than it sounds, since he very obviously telegraphs his attacks and will charge at us, giving ample time to bonk him. I got him to line me up on the side of the room so I could jump combo him. Stylish moves are a great strat to destroy him, but my controller bind for it kinda doesn't work, so we'll just do regular jumps. I was able to get hit and then clip through him to jump on him, and since he deals 1 damage and I deal 2 at this point, I was able to kill him before he killed me. Right off the bat, this fight seems to be absolutely impossible without moving. You need to jump onto his back in 3D, grab a Frackle, and then chuck it at his antenna 3 times for 3 phases, and this normally involves a lot of walking. However, this isn't as hopeless as you might think. The beginning of the fight involves waiting around while he swoops at you, and he only deals 1 damage, so it doesn't really matter, but it is worth using this to demonstrate that you can be completely invincible in this game by just spamming the 3D flip. Mario's invincibility frames overlap each time you use it, so you cannot take damage. After that, we need to flip into 3D right after the screen stops shaking from his swoop attack. This seems arbitrary, but once he starts charging at us, you'll see the 3D timer run down and damage Mario, giving him some invincibility that we can use to jump through Fractal's head to land on his back. The spot you land onto the back is actually where you spawn once it loads Fractal in the sky, so the closer to the antenna we can get, the better. One of the biggest limitations of this challenge as a whole, but is especially bad in this fight, is the fact that we're stuck facing whatever direction we spawn in, and that's usually to the right. This carries over into the sky, so we're not even looking towards his antenna. In order to get over there, we need Frackles to spawn to the right of us, and I believe this is position dependent and not luck dependent, and on my second try of jumping on his back, I got Frackles to spawn to the right. I had a lot of trouble figuring out how to consistently get these guys to move me to the left instead of right, since their walk cycles generally didn't bump into me, but here's the tech that I figured out. If you grab a Frackle while it's facing away from you, flip into 3D, throw it, and then flip back into 2D, it'll push you to the left a little bit, and then it will damage you to knock you even further. After a couple of these, we can get under the antenna, grab more Frackles, and jump and throw them while stationary, and finally damage this big stupid idiot. 3 hits ends the phase, and he forces us off his back. Without moving, doing the cycle skip trick seems pretty difficult, so I just did 2 more normal cycles with the same strategies until I won the fight. We now have Peach, Boomer, and Slim under our belt, so that gives us a lot more options. Peach's Parasol is incredibly useful for this challenge since it makes you immune to like 99.5% of attacks in the game, and you can still receive knockback when you get hit, which can be useful for manipulating our position. The best way to approach this fight is to recycle our strategy from the underwater challenge, which helps keep our planet green after all, and that would be to spam Boomer. Boomer's explosion is able to reach Spider Mimi when she's standing on the ground, and her hit stun animation is long enough for us to place Boomer a second time to remove a leg. Sometimes she'll get up on the ceiling, and we can swap to Thoreau to grab a ruby and end this cycle early to speed things up. Repeat this sequence 5 more times and Mimi is kill. Now, I hate to use a similar strategy 2 times in a row, but Boomer is kind of the intended way to beat First Bowser anyways. For extra flair, I'll demonstrate a really easy and consistent damageless strategy. Just flip into 3D when the fight starts, place Boomer, and flip back and wait for Bowser to get close to you. Then, all you gotta do is rinse and repeat. You might not connect every single Boomer use, but he only takes a few hits, so it doesn't even matter. You can kill Bowser in like 20 seconds. The big blooper is surprisingly difficult in this scenario considering that this is basically a cutscene under normal conditions. We have to hit his red tentacle 3 times and the first one is completely free if we just instantly hold down to breathe fire with Bowser. From there, the best strategy is to use Mario or just swim up to avoid damage until you can damage boost to the left. Once you're on the left side, you can just camp with Bowser until the red tentacle happens to spawn in fire range again, and after 2 of those, you win. Dimentio is one of the most random and frustrating bosses when you can't move, and it's actually pretty sick. Dimentio teleports all over the place and can even spawn clones of himself that do the same, and they rarely fly above you for you to be able to jump on them, so the best strategy is to use Bowser's fire. However, Bowser's hitbox is pretty chunky and will get knocked all over the place by Dimentio's magic, so swapping back and forth between Peach for defense and Bowser for offense is the way to go. Peach's parasol doesn't take any knockback when blocking Dimentio's magic, which is fantastic because the middle is definitely where you want to be. Whenever he spawned in front of me, I quickly swapped to Bowser, burned him, and then swapped back. He doesn't have a lot of health, so I was able to take him down pretty comfortably. I would have loved to use a unique solution for this fight, but it just so happened that the Bowser and Peach swapping stuff was the exact ticket for the Francis fight also. He only spawns in front of you sometimes, and when he does, he picks between a short animation, a shorter animation, and a shortest animation, so you really only have time to hit him with Bowser's Flame. Boomer could work with some prediction and luck, but we've also used him a bunch, so it's repetitive either way. After just 5 hits at this level, which is a fairly reasonable level to be at this point by the way, he dies. Everybody's favorite OC from this game was actually a pretty fun one. I decided to tackle this one with Peach, and I had Thoreau at the ready. He has a pretty aggro boss AI, so with some clever guarding and jump spacing, I can bait him into walking right under me so he can get jumped on. Thudley could have made this fight faster by doubling my damage, but I wanted Thoreau on tap so I could steal Shroom Shakes from Mr. L. He used all 3 of them while standing behind me, so it just made the fight take extra long, but whatever. Beating Mr. L immediately sends us into the space shoot-'em-up fight against Brobot, and this is a pretty goofy fight in this challenge. Mario was my character of choice, but you unfortunately spawn at the very bottom by default, which means your Scorp shots go right underneath him. You can swim only up in space by pressing up on the D-pad, which isn't technically left or right, but I wanted to avoid movement like that completely, so I didn't use that. Instead, to move Mario up from the bottom of the map, we can get zucked by Brobot and then flip into 3D to cancel it before he actually eats and damages us. If he does eat you, you get spat back out facing the other way, which is going to be an absolute nightmare for actually damaging him, so don't do that. From there, I literally just spammed the 2 button without a care in the world until he died. He can push you back in the corner, but we know how to get out of that, so now, we're finally going to make some good use of Thudley against Chapter 5-2 O-Chunks. If you're a high enough level for Bowser to have 10 attack, Thudley will do 20. This version of O-Chunks only has 40 health, so yeah, we can literally beat him in less than 10 seconds with this strategy. The next boss is O-Chunks again, but faster and with 60 health, and if this game is going to make us fight the same boss twice in a row, we might as well use the same strategy. It takes 3 hits instead of 2, so that's like a few extra seconds for this one. Oh no! King Crocus is one of the most fearsome bosses for a stationary little guy. His appendages swoop at you constantly, and they come at you from above, which makes it a little bit difficult to avoid them with jump spacing. Thoreau is the most consistent and fun option, so that's what I went with, although I'm sure Bowser and Carrie would work great here too. After landing several hits, the first phase ends and we move on to phase 2, which is actually pretty neat since we can also grab and hold Crocus himself to ram him into the pedal blades. You have to time these hits with Crocus's flower being open, so some of the jump stalling to avoid projectiles is actually pretty tight, but it's worth doing to finish this fight up faster. The Samurai guys don't really count as bosses, and they're boring, so let's skip ahead to Mimi. She's also boring. If you're a high enough level, you can 2-shot her with Bowser's fire, but if not, you can get a 3rd hit with Carrie. Just holding down at the start will get 2 guaranteed hits on her. SPM boss design. If you're a returning viewer of this channel, you already know what my strat is going to be for this fight. I discovered by complete accident during the level 1 playthrough that you can use Fleep on Brobot L-Type's fists to send them flying back at him for 7 damage each. This is one of the only instances in the entire game of Fleep actually being able to fire projectiles back, and it's specific behavior that is programmed since they target his movement and everything. Mario plus Fleep or Peach plus Fleep becomes the combo of choice since they both have ways to avoid all damage, and I chose Mario because it's pretty funny to spam 3D against his laser and receive no punishment whatsoever. After, let's see, 64 health, 7 damage each. After 10 fists are Fleeped, Brobot explodes and is dead. He died. Our next boss is Bowser again, and in support of the Cudge fandom, I think we need to Cudge this guy. I chose to use Luigi even though he behaves identically to Mario here when spamming Cudge because I like that they put him back in the game after he mysteriously disappeared in Chapter 2. I think they must have forgotten to put him in the game for a few chapters, but he's back now, so it's cool to get some screen time with him. We often poke fun at Bone Chill on this channel for being really underwhelming and easy, but as it turns out, Luigi can't kill him while doing absolutely nothing. He's gotta do something. Spring jumps. In all seriousness, there's a lot more to this fight than usual here. I can only damage Bone Chill when I line up under him or by having his own icicles fall on his face for 4 damage each. Bone Chill moves left and right at random, so while he's close to you, there's a good chance he'll either move above you or stick his head down to breathe ice. But staying close to him is a little bit tricky with how many projectiles he shoots at you. Another neat thing we can do here is time jumps so that we land on the right side of the icicles, and that will give us rightward momentum. We can even maintain this momentum by jumping as we land, which is easier with Luigi given his more slippery walking physics. And with Bone Chill's tendency to get double or even triple hit when you use a Luigi super jump, it's easy enough to beat Bone Chill before we take too much damage. The fourth and final appearance of O-Chunks is definitely larger than the previous 3. I decided to finally unleash my Goat Berry on this guy, turning this into Super Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, where I can kill this guy by super guarding him 34 times in a row. The second iteration of Spider Mimi is a pretty solid upgrade from the first one, especially in the movement speed department. I tried to use the Boomer strat from Chapter 2 against her, but her hit stun after the first hit is way shorter this time around, so there's not even close to enough time to place Boomer again or even swap to Cudge or anything. Being stuck as Peach for story reasons is somewhat limiting, but the main problem is honestly that her boss AI barely ever goes near you, opting instead to shoot rubies from far away or from above. Eventually, I found a pattern that was consistent but still fairly tight. At the start of the fight, your goal needs to be to get to the leftmost wall. She'll attempt to walk above you and drop 3 rubies on your head, but she can't reach you in the very corner of the room and instead drops them next to you. Pick up the first one immediately so it can't despawn while she slowly drops the other 2, and then as soon as she drops the third, throw the ruby that you're holding at her. This will knock her off the ceiling, and with that she has a little animation that gives you time to grab the second ruby. With this one, you have to be careful not to throw it while she's still in that animation of getting down from the ceiling, since it will cancel it and restart it. Once she's down, she'll pause in place for a second, giving you time to jump very slightly and throw the second ruby. This stuns her, letting you grab and throw the third ruby, and finally that is 1 out of 6 legs removed. To make the next 5 cycles easier, I actually ended up finding a use for Slim in this run. He's the best option to avoid damage while also receiving no knockback, letting us stay in the good spot that we need to kill Mimi. After a lot of cycles, a few mistakes, and actually not very much damage taken, Mimi is kill for real. She's dead. The fact that we don't have any pixels or characters besides Luigi for this fight leaves us pretty limited. During most of Dimentio's attacks, he has a not insignificant chance to appear above you, leaving him open to a double damage super jump. But when he summons 2 clones of himself, that's when this becomes chaos and bullshit. They'll spawn on either side of you and throw 3 magic bolts at a time, and very rarely will the real one spawn above you to be vulnerable to a super jump. Completing this fight at a mortal level is a complete RNG nightmare. There's just no other solution to this fight than brute forcing it or using items, which is, of course, banned, so I ended up cheating levels in since you can one-shot him once you get 40 base attack. I accidentally set my level 1 too low, so I had to 2-shot him instead, and it took like 3 minutes just to get these 2 hits on him, so I think that helps prove my point. The first phase where he's invincible is locked to Mario only, so it's pretty difficult to get the 3 hits we need to trigger the cutscene that gives us our heroes and makes him vulnerable. From there, Bowser is most definitely the way to go. He gives us solid damage with great range, and if Bleck is anywhere on the right side of us, we have a good chance to hit him since he will fly past us between attacks. Bleck can get some incredibly cheap hits in this fight. He's basically guaranteed to get the slowdown effect on you, his portals can come from straight above and be unavoidable, and worst of all, he can do his big portal sucky attack and get a free 8 damage on you. Or at least that's what I thought at first. This is like one of 2 attacks in the game that Peach's Parasol can't block, and it even seemed to get past me spamming 3D somehow. Eventually, I got desperate and tried swapping to Slim, and I was actually able to get the swap and use while the portal sucked me. So as long as I heard this specific sound effect and reacted to it in time, I could swap to Slim and use him before the portal sucked me up. Eventually, I got through his 150 health and we can take on the true final boss. And for once in his life, Super Dimentio isn't a majorly disappointing final boss. The main problem is his height, since we don't have Luigi to use Super Jump. The moving platforms in the arena are both a blessing and a curse because they give us some control over left and right movement, but they also make it difficult to avoid damage when they're firing squares that you can barely dodge. Normally, Bowser and Carrie are pretty awesome like we've seen in this video already, but in this fight, Carrie was honestly not that useful. Being able to use fire in the air doesn't matter as much when we have to camp on platforms the whole time anyways, and ultimately I found that Thudley was the best pixel to have on tap here. If I found myself above him at any point, a quick one press would deal 24 to 28 damage in a single blow. This isn't even an over-leveled character or anything, this is a pretty normal or maybe even slightly low level for a casual playthrough. And so with the defeat of Super Dimentio, we can say that we beat all the bosses of Super Paper Mario without moving. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy this really niche and fun Super Paper Mario stuff, make sure you subscribe so I can keep making it. Huge shoutouts to Bringle members, as always, for being the backbone of this channel and community, and if you want to get your name on the screen with them, then click the big join button that appears on my channel once you're subscribed. I hope everyone watching has a great day, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.